why you should back the draw in the knockout stage, and why you should back the draw in the knockout stage. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Betting Expert Football Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, Daniel. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Enjoying the football, ready for the knockouts. Sam and I are joined once again, completing the hat trick by Betting Expert's football contributor, Daniele Fisichella. How are you doing?
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Sam. All good. Thank you.
Good. I had to get you back to dissect Italy ahead of the knockout stage after what was a tricky final group game for them. Left it late, didn't they?
Absolutely. And based on the results of last night from Georgia, we needed a goal from Zaccagno. Otherwise, we would have already packed our bags. And they did it the Italian way a little bit. Italy from the 90s, if you like. And they scraped it really because the performance against Croatia wasn't very convincing. They conceded 30 seconds after Donnarumma made a great save on the penalties. And yes, there was a little bit of a siege in the last 20 minutes. And the goal helped by a great search by Calafiori. And from Zaccagni, what a way to score your first ever goal with the national team, a player that's been on the fringe of Spalletti side and now is taking us to Berlin. But this is going to be extremely tough for Italy. Everyone in Italy says, well, now that the knockout stages are back, we're going to see the real Italy. But what is exactly the real Italy? Our records in World Cup qualifiers are very poor. Our records in major tournaments are not exceptional. In 2021, we won the Euros, of course, but the circumstances were also lucky. They were in our favor, so 2 penalty shootouts and a difficult game against Austria in the round of 16, which we won in extra time. And now against Switzerland, the tournament masters qualified 6 times in the last 6 major tournaments to the knockout stages. Only France has done better. I think Italy are going to suffer, are going to struggle to break down a very solid back line, marshaled by, of course, Rodriguez, and with Sommer in goal, a keeper that only had 5 saves to make, and a strong lineup up front with pacey players, the likes of Embolo, Vargas, and Doye. They got the pace that the Croats didn't have, and that's why perhaps they didn't trouble the Azzurri that much. But Switzerland are unbeaten in 6. They never beat Italy in the last 31 years. Probably this one is the biggest chance. Italy only won 1-5 of the last 5 games against the Swiss. They're going to be without Calafiori against a team that, they were very unlucky, the Switzerland not to top Group A. Probably the draw is the one to go for. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic and stay in the Asian handicap 0 in the first half for Italy, 172. If Italy wins the first half, they score the first goal, maybe they will be able to hang on to it. But in the 3 games they played so far, they never scored the first goal.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the draw there, Daniele, in the 1x2 market. As we said in our pre-tournament Euro 2024 betting guide, if you would have gone back to Euro 2000 and backed the draw with a single unit in every single knockout match at the Euros, it would have returned a profit of plus 22.1 units for a return on investment of 38.1%. Sam, odds of 3.0 for the draw in this first knockout match, a Euro 2016, Switzerland versus Italy. Which way are you leaning?
Yes, Dan. So I'd just like to say, really, Daniele showing signs of optimism about his club's chances. We don't usually see that on this podcast, so that's a very nice change. And I won't get into Italy too much because Daniele's kind of covered it, but I did want to mention Zaccagnini's strike. That was a really, really good finish. And what was a rare moment of real quality in their attacking third, actually, last time out. And now they face a Swiss side who are used to performing at this level. They're used to making the knockout stages. It's their 6th major tournament in a row where they've qualified from the groups. And they were also within, 2 minutes from topping a Euros group for the first time up against Germany. So, they've had a good tournament. And I'm glad you brought up the Euros betting guide, Dan, because I've got a few stats in front of me as well. 24 out of 58 of the recent Euros knockout matches since 1998 have been draws. So it's definitely a live runner, and it will be in this game as well. And it's not a surprise because the pressure at this stage is the highest it has ever been for some of these players. The national shirt will weigh heavy for most. The expectation levels rise enormously once out of the groups. But Switzerland are solid. Sommer and the back three plus Xhaka in front. They started against Germany and they had 480 international caps combined between them. Xhaka and Friula will ensure that Italy's midfield won't have it all their own way. The defenders behind them in Shah, Akanji and Rodriguez will ensure that whoever starts up top for Spalletti, which we're not too sure who that will be, that they'll get limited time on the ball. And now, we mentioned it last week, the Swiss now have pace to get in behind to cause a problem on the wing, and their squad alongside that is packed with major tournament experience, which is invaluable at international level. And I'm not sure you can say that really about the Italian team, both on the pitch and off the pitch. From what we've seen from both sides this tournament, Italy have somewhat struggled against the two better nations in their group. Switzerland, on the other hand, were unfortunate not to go 2-0 up against Germany. In the end, Nicholas Füllkrug header meant they only got a point from that game, but they'll count themselves unlucky. And I can just see a similar level of performance here from Switzerland. Italy won't like playing them. The quarter goal advantage on the handicap here in the round of 16 when draws are a live runner, like we said, at 1.83. In Switzerland's favour on Bet365. That's where I'll hang my hat, I think.
Yeah, it's a nice bet. Personally, I prefer the draw with this one. But look at it, Switzerland. As you said, they've made it through to the knockout stages quite often in the last few years. Since the 1990s, they've made it through to the knockout stages in 7 tournaments before this one, and were eliminated in the round of 16 in 6 of them. It was only in Euro 2020 when they got past France in the round of 16 and made it through to the quarters, where they ultimately lost. Daniele, what do you want to see from Italy if they're going to hand the Swiss another round of 16 exit? You mentioned Calafiori there, who's arguably been Italy's best player in the tournament so far. I think he's certainly up there in the running, who won't be able to play in this match. What do you need to see from Italy in his absence?
Tactical clarity and clear ideas, because Italy has changed system during the Euro. We were expecting it. Italian players can be flexible, can play with a back 3, with a back 5. But if playing with a back 5 means surrendering possession, well, that's obviously a worry. And I think Italy needs to be more decisive in the final third, perhaps giving a chance to the wingers, players like Zaccagni, El Shaarawy, but the same Chiesa. They need to be used in a position where they can be more effective mentally. Italy has to be strong. It is still a young group. There are players that don't have a huge experience at the international level, but if this is the group we're going to build the process and get us to the next World Cup, hopefully this is a very, very, very important game. So they need to stay in the game, not have lapses of concentration as they did against Croatia, but a proper plan how to try and break down a very strong defensive unit.
Yeah. Just to a point in your favour, Betsy's siding with the Italians for this, looking at minus 0.25 in the Asian handicap line from Betsy, who is on an absolute tear at the moment. Plus 29.7% ROI for the tournament, plus 23.78 units of profit. Can't argue with Betsy at the moment. I'm just blindly siding with Betsy, but I do like the draw for this. That's the first of the round of 16 matches. We're going to go through them all one by one. Next up, Germany versus Denmark. Sam, you can take things from here. The hosts up against the Danes. What do you think?
So if we go back to the Betting Expert Euros betting guide, if we analyse both the World Cup and the Euros round of 16 since 1998, 72 matches have been played, 25 of them were draws. That would have been a 26.3% ROI if backing every single game to be a draw with a level 1 unit stake. Now, will this be a draw? The bookmakers suggest it likely won't be. Germany are the 1.60 favourites. I won't be touching that on the nose. If you look at Denmark, they've created 3.2 XG from 3 games, accumulating 3 points. At the other end, they've conceded just 2.2 expected goals. It hasn't been the most entertaining of routes for the neutral if you're to watch Denmark's 3 fixtures in the group, and I expect this one might follow a similar path. Denmark will look to contain and keep Germany at bay. I think they'll do that successfully for large parts of this game. However, in the end, I'm banking on that German forward line to have too much in those areas. No team has got close to Germany's 8 goals scored this tournament. Obviously, that 5 goals against Scotland skew that a little. Denmark have managed just 2 goals in 3 matches. So what we need from Germany in terms of this bet, which will be Germany win and under 3.5 goals at 2.20. We need to see the type of energy and movement from the front line that we saw on match day 1 versus Scotland. We need Musiala to get on the ball, drag players out of position, Wirtz to get on the ball with his pace, and Havertz to drop a little deeper to be that target man to bounce the ball off. With Germany being the host nation, home crowd, they'll keep going and going until they find that opener. And I'd imagine they get it at some point. If you add under 5 goals to the 1.60 price, that gets up to 1.83, but I fancy something a little bigger. Under 4 goals gets to 2.20. The worry is that Germany will struggle when coming up against a low block. They struggled against Switzerland. Yakin moved to a 3-4-3 shape where Xhaka was aggressive to Kroos, Akanji to Havertz. They'd learned from that what didn't work for Scotland and Hungary in the first 2 match days and adapted in match day 3. That tactical flexibility is something Yakin and Switzerland haven't always been known for. Very nearly got the better of the host. But in the end, in this game specifically, and it could be a grind, I believe Germany just have enough over the 90 minutes in a low-scoring victory. We mentioned it before the tournament. I trust Julian Nagelsmann to find a way in these situations. When it's knockout football, manager versus manager, I'm going to go for Nagelsmann almost every time. So in terms of the bet, I'm going to go for Germany and under 3.5 goes at 2.20. I think that's fairly palatable.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Bookies have the goal line at 2.25 with Germany -1 Asian handicap. Betsy siding with the Danes, back in at Denmark +1 at around 1.81, which is quite interesting. I think it will be a tight game. I do like to draw in this at around 3.9. You can get on Bet365. Set pieces could be really important in this game. Germany and Denmark both have created 16 shots from set pieces so far at Euro 2024. The joint second highest behind the Czech Republic, who, of course, no longer in the competition. Daniele, which way do you see this one going?
I think this is going to be an extremely tight game. Denmark know how to slow the tempo of the games and know how to press as well. They did it against England, but they seem a very composed team with, of course, Eriksen in midfield and Højbjerg managing the tempo of the games really, really well. And yeah, Eriksen has been one of the standout midfielders of this Euro so far. They will be without Hjulmand, Denmark, who scored the goal against England because he's suspended, so it's Delaney coming in. But I agree with Sam. Germany struggled against Switzerland. They looked a little bit more rushed. The passes were not as crisp as we used to see. And probably some of the odds are skewed by the fact Germany made such a great debut. But they played the worst team at Euro 2024 and they scored 5 in a game they were expected to win. The other 2 performances were not as sparkling. Musiala and Wirtz in the last couple of games did not find the space. And Germany have got a few injury problems. Rudiger is a doubt, might not play. Ta is suspended, so Scholterbeck is coming in. I'm not expecting Germany to go forward and press high as much as they want to. Probably is going to be a more composed game plan, which is going to suit the Danish. Look, these are 2 teams that they kept the ball really well so far. They are respectively first, Germany, and 5th for passes attempted during the tournament. And there are 4 Danish players in the top 18 passers of the competition. One of them is Henderson, but the other one is one of the defenders. One of them is Hjulmand, giving away now, and one of them is the defenders Joachim Andersen, who, in the absence of Hjulmand, might be given more responsibilities of carrying the ball forward. He has averaged over 65 passes in every game they play so far. So my pick is Joachim Andersen, one of the 3 centre backs of Denmark, probably the most technically gifted, to do at least 59 passes, so over 58.5 passes, which pays 190, which obviously doesn't mean Germany or Denmark can necessarily win the game, but I'm expecting a game where Denmark can keep the ball well and play it in the central middle area where Germany is not going to press so high.
It's an interesting angle in Daniele, and I'm glad you mentioned the suspension of Jonathan Tah and the potential injury to Antonio Rudiger. If you look at the 10 players who've averaged the most passes per game at Euro 2024, 3 of them are German. Toni Kroos, of course, top by a long way, but then you've got Rudiger in third, you've got Jonathan Tah in 10th. 2 serious ball players for Germany. Without them in the team, potentially without both of them in the team, do you think we're just going to see Denmark do a little bit better at holding the ball? Is that what you're leaning on for this bet?
I think they will. Yeah, I think they will, and I think without them pushing the ball high, and also perhaps Nagelsmann is not going to push the line so high without having the speed, the recovery of Rudiger. I think Denmark could be able to hang on to the ball well. They did it well against England, after all. So they did demonstrate it. If a team doesn't necessarily press them, they are able to do it. Yeah, a Danish side that I see them very, very composed, very, very solid as well. Let's not forget, this is a German side still in transition, so can't expect every single game to be at their top level as they demonstrated against Scotland.
Yeah, you can get both teams to score at around 2.10, which I think could be quite interesting as well, with those defensive injuries and absences for Germany. Let's move on to Sunday's games. And, well, I gave Daniele first bite at Italy. Sam, you can have first bite at England. They're coming up against Slovakia.
Yeah, cheers, Dan. This should be thrilling. So England versus Slovenia saw less expected goals created than any Premier League game last season with 0.80 XG. And I said something similar after match day 1, as England versus Serbia also saw less expected goals created than any Premier League game last season with 0.69 XG. England's group saw no team score more than 1 goal in a game for the first time in the competition's history. So if you've watched England this tournament, you're thinking for this game should be leaning towards something unders related, you'd imagine. Under 2.5 goals is now 1.72. That was 1.80 last night. And I'm wondering if it's just as easy as that, Dan. Like, maybe we don't need to think about this too much. England are struggling in front of goal. They're struggling in terms of, well, that forward line clicking. And teams are struggling to break England down, which they probably will do all tournament. Slovakia will try to get on the ball and knock it around, but will also gladly sit in a low block out of possession. We've seen that England are happy enough to concede possession in their defensive third, if their defensive third is out of arm's reach, and that might be on the horizon here again. These two teams have met 6 times. England have won all 6. They last met in a World Cup qualifier in 2017, where England won 2-1. So against Slovenia, England weren't good enough. Again, if the desire is to be one of the leading nations at this tournament, the performance wasn't of that level. The performance got the job done, top of the group and through to the knockouts, but it wasn't necessarily convincing. We saw England's quality throughout the game, but it only ever arrived in flashes. There wasn't a sustained period that I can remember where I thought, we look good here. We're knocking on the door so much that we're going to take the lead any minute. That didn't come. We looked sharper with the introduction of Cole Palmer. Kobe Mainoo looked assured in midfield and must be at the forefront of Southgate's thinking for a start against Slovenia because, well, Trent's probably not going to come in. Conor Gallagher didn't exactly leave an imprint worthy of making sure he's in the team the next game, hence him coming off at half-time. And this is getting a bit boring, but obviously Southgate isn't a listener to the pod. I say this every week. I just think we need Anthony Gordon on the left wing. If there's a time for experimenting or doing something you're not fully sold on, Gareth, it's probably now against Slovenia before we progress any further, if we progress any further. But yeah, moving on elsewhere, France, Spain, Germany, Portugal, they've all ended up on the other side of the draw, as is Southgate's luck at a major tournament. England's likely route is now Slovakia, Switzerland, Daniele, Austria, then Germany /Spain/France in the final. So I think on the whole, England should have enough here like Germany, but I don't think it'll be pretty. Thankfully, I'll be in Glastonbury, so I won't have the pleasure of another 90 minutes on my television.
Difficult kind of slog, Glastonbury, for you this weekend.
I actually didn't mention the bet either. So if you'd like to hear that, it is England to qualify in under 2.5 goals at 2.15.
Okay. Sam, I'm going to wind the clock back 3 years for you. Take you back to Euro 2020. England topped their group in qualifying, scored a grand total of 2 goals to get through to the knockout stage. Came against Germany, won 2-0, and then came up against Ukraine, probably one of the lesser teams in that knockout stage, and just absolutely blew them away 4-0. Is there a danger that now we're in the knockouts, England start to click offensively?
There's a real danger, in terms of the bet, there's a real danger that the attacking components in that England team are going to turn up and they're going to put 3, 4, 5 past a nation. However, if we're going off the performances this tournament, the feeling in camp, maybe the pressure's building a little because of what they've served up throughout the group. It is hard to see England going out there and playing with freedom, putting Slovakia to the sword and just racking the score up. Like I said, I think that they'll do enough to get through, but that may look like taking a 1-goal lead, taking a 2-goal lead and sitting back like they have done throughout the group stages. I just can't see them racking up the goals necessary to make this bet a loser. And I think maybe Daniele may be of a similar thinking. I just can't see that. Like I said, we've got the players to do it, and every England fan in the country would love to see it. Whether we get that is another story entirely.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, looking at the statistics for the group stage, England have created a total of 29 shots so far in the tournament. That is the 20th highest. So only 4 teams created fewer shooting opportunities in the group stage in England, which isn't the best record heading into the knockout stage. So Daniele, which way are you going with this?
And Slovakia attacking numbers, by the way, are better than England, but they haven't faced anyone as good as England yet. Now, I think England are slowly but steadily mutating into a tournament team. They are mutating into what Italy was in mid-90s. Italy USA 94, France 98, stuff like that. So very slow burner, very slow start in the tournament. They grow into the knockout stages and they reach semi-final or final. Looking at the odds and the prediction of Betsy, England are 26% winners of the European Championship. They started as 20% probability to win. To reach the final, 46%. Of course, the draw is massive. This is tournament football. The draw is everything. It's all about the draw, and you need to take this chance. Performances could be better, of course, but England managed to win a group, which in the end was easy. There were less goals scored in this group than the entire goal scored by Germany so far in the tournament. And at the same time, England have conceded very, very few chances. They got the lowest expected goals against, 0.84. I don't remember Jordan Pickford making any spectacular save apart from one on Vlahovic, but it would have been probably a blunder if that would have gone in. And yes, England are a team that are first for possession, second for passing accuracy, but as you mentioned, Dan, they only had very few attacks, so they play very, very safe. However, I think that England are a couple of steps away from playing better, and when I say better, I mean much better, and probably blowing teams like Slovakia or the likes of Switzerland or Italy away, because the margin of improvements of England are huge, and the same cannot be said about Spain, the same cannot be said about Portugal, neither be Germany. So it's England and France who really got a ground to make, and they do have the players to make it. Of course, it relies a lot on Southgate to having the cool head and making the right choices and try to put the right players in the right space. Of course, lacking a fullback on the left, it's huge, but with a couple of tweaks, maybe this is a team that can improve fairly dramatically. Dubravka for Slovakia to make 12 saves so far. They are a defensive team. Franco Calzona knows how to set them up. If they need to get a 0-0 or a 1, they will get a 0-0 or a 1-1. They do have a star player, which is Lobotka, can dictate the play, slow it down, and I think that's what they're trying to do. Give the ball to Lobotka. Lobotka spread it around as it does for Napoli, comes back and try to make sure that the England press is beaten. I love the under 2.5 goals but I also like England win 2-0, which doubles your stake, pay 2. And by the way, on the goals number, we have already seen the number of goals slowly decreasing. Before match day 3, we were an average of 2.68 goals per game. Now we are at 2.25. That's normal. Stake gets higher, and as we highlight in the betting guide, on the knockout stages, the prevalence of under 2.5 goals is much higher. So England wins. Probably England wins under 2.5 goals. I'm going to go in the England win 2-0.
Yeah, under 2.5 goals is Betsy's best bet for this match. Got odds of 1.80, probably drifted in a little bit. I will say, at this tournament, England haven't created too many chances, but they have created an average of 9.7 per 90 minutes. At Euro 2020, 3 years ago, their average was 7.7. So they are actually creating more chances per 90 minutes now than they did 3 years ago. And I am sort of siding with you a little bit, Daniele, on the win 2-0. And I think it is, I don't know, say it quietly and all that, but I think it's quite a good time to get on England. Minus 1.5, you can get them to win this game. They're not, it's Slovakia, you know. Let's not go crazy here. 2.25 odds
Absolutely.
for England, minus 1.5. I think is a pretty decent bet at good odds. So moving on to the other game on Sunday, June 30th, Spain versus Georgia, who pulled off a shock result against Portugal last night to secure their place in the knockout round. Daniele, do you want to kick us off with Spain versus Georgia?
This is an interesting one. It's a repeat of the qualifiers where Spain humbled Georgia in Tbilisi 7-1, and the golfing class was evident there, and there is no reason to believe that Georgia have improved so much or Spain have gone backwards. So the same pattern should repeat. In that game which I watched, I remember Yamal and Nico Williams were finding so much space in behind the Georgia back line. The question with Spain is, have they picked too early, which goes, it links to what we were saying about England before. Look, I think Spain have improved very fastly under Luis de la Fuente, a campaign that started with a 2-0 defeat at Hampden, and look where they are now, qualified with 1 game to spare, 9 points in the table, the only team with full points. They rested 10 players against Albania. As far as I got memory, this sort of tactic never backfired in major tournaments. If you can rest players, do rest players. It is a privilege, and they actually won against Albania. Is not the most attacking Spain side we ever seen. There are 6 teams in this tournament that have attacked more than Spain, but Spain certainly have been more effective. Look, as I said, this is probably an outlier. Spain is the first time they finished the Euro group stage without conceding, only the second time they won all the 3 group games. So the big question is, are they going to revert to mean a little bit? Are they going to be found out in a way? In the last 11 games, Spain 10 wins, 1 draw. And now they place Georgia, who are the fairy tale of the tournament, but also a team that got a lot of legs up front. Kvaratskhelia is not at the level of when he won the league with Napoli, but he can still make a difference. And the way he carries the ball, and with a lot of runners that Georgia have, they do going to have chances. Against Portugal, they took the chances that they missed in the previous game against Czech Republic. They scored after 94 seconds, by the way, which was the 5th fastest goal in the history of the Euros. The scoring numbers of Georgia are good, scoring 11 of the last 12, scoring the first half in 7 of the last 8. A team that is happy to be the underdog, is happy to suffer. They know they'll have to go through spells of that, but first full tackles, first for balls recovered in the Euro so far, again, shows very good signs. However, I think the goalkeeper, Madamashvili, he's overperforming. He's already made 20 saves, and probably, I think, against Spain, he's going to concede a couple. This is a lean for me. Both teams to score, yes, at 250. The Spanish have conceded chances in all the games so far. They might let one in. 250 as a lean, so probably just bet a third of your unit or half a unit, something like that.
Okay. For the record, Betty is siding with Georgia, the underdogs, with the +2 Asian handicap. It has drifted in a little bit since the bets were made, so you can get it for about 1.75 now is the handicap. Sam, as Daniele said, there are, this Georgia side, they're aggressive, they win the ball back, plenty of tackles, and then they've got quality up front. They've got the tournament's top scorer in their ranks. In Mikitadze's got 3 goals now in the tournament. Where are you leaning for this game?
Well, I'd love that Georgia in the knockouts, ranked 74th in the world, and it's thoroughly deserved too. Like you said, Mikitadze leads the tournament as leading goal scorer, although 2 were from the spot, but still don't want to take anything away from him. Their 2-0 win over Portugal was one of the biggest upsets at the Euros ever. It makes its way into the top 5 biggest upsets odds-wise at this tournament since the millennium. And it doesn't get any easier for the Georgians now, playing the only team in the tournament with a 100% record in Spain from the group stages. I fear that Spain will move the ball about the pitch from left to right, from right to left, utilising the wingmen when possible, moving Georgia's formation around repeatedly, and I fear it will be too much. This is not groundbreaking analysis. Spain are 1.20 for the win. Georgia are 12-1. That's the kind of gulf in quality we're dealing with here. And like Daniele said, we saw that in recent fixtures against each other too. The Asian handicap at minus 1.75 for Spain, I thought looked interesting. I had it down as probably a -2 Asian handicap for the game, and I'm assuming that's maybe where it'll end up. So my pick for the game on the main markets will be the Spanish handicap. I'm Georgia's biggest fan, honestly, and I hope they can spring a surprise. I just can't see it. Kvaratskhelia in that midfield, we need to be brave, join the attack and have the game of their lives in behind Mikitadze for them to have a chance. Spain will need to have an off day. A lot of things will need to go right against Spain for Georgia to progress. It happened against a rotated Portugal, so don't rule it out. But in terms of value, the Spanish handicap is one that stood out for me.
Yeah, it looks good. I think I'd like the player props when they come out for this match. Maybe looking at a Mikitadze's shot on target has come in every game so far. Obviously, he scored in every game. But the line has been surpassed. Maybe passes for Spain. Georgia want to get in and get close to players. They want to tackle them. But if Spain could just keep the ball away, then maybe that'll be a good way in. Let's move on to Monday's matches. And Sam, I cannot express my relief when I saw your bet for this game and it wasn't Romelu Lukaku to score any time.
Yeah, I've had enough of that now. I'm moving on. It was fun while it lasted. Look, they were poor against Ukraine in the second half, especially when the Belgians attempted to press. Ukraine just bopped the ball around and invaded what was a lackluster, half-arsed attempt at hassling Ukraine. This was actually Belgium's least intense defensive display in terms of PPDA, passes per defensive action, at any of the past 4 major tournaments. Do that against France and you're in real trouble. Keep failing to take your chances in the knockouts and you'll be sent packing. I saw videos after the game of the Belgian players walking towards their fans, clapping. They get halfway and they were greeted with whistles and jeers, and then they all turn around and head to the changing room. So the supporters aren't happy and you can't blame them. They've just stumbled and fell into a round of 16 matchup with France. And that was a hard watch if you're a Belgian fan or if you had Lukaku, anytime goal scorer, on again. But we shouldn't forget that France haven't turned up at this tournament yet. Similarly to England, they've scored 2 goals in the whole of the group stages. That's poor by their standards. A new look, Kylian Mbappe is back after a couple games out. Their talisman, their leader at still such a young age. His presence will give them a real lift, and that alone will frighten the life out of Belgium going backwards. Belgium have looked vulnerable all tournament for me. Not good enough against Romania on match day 1. They had Carrasco at left back. Tedesco made 2 changes. I forgot how to say his name. Fiati, that's not how you say his name. But he came in with Jan Vertonghen. Again, not good enough on the whole against Ukraine. They look susceptible. If France move the ball quick, isolate defenders out wide, then they'll get joy. Vertonghen up against Mbappe, I'm sure, will encourage high blood pressure en masse throughout Belgium. And I was surprised at France's price. I had them at around 1.8, maybe shorter. So at 1.92 for the minus 0.5 Asian handicap, I'll take that. Belgium should struggle at both ends for me, and I just don't trust them at this stage in a major tournament. So hopefully France turn up. Now knockout football is here.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised at the pricing as well. You can get, France just below evens to win the match. Betsy's gone the other way, gone for Belgium plus half a goal in the Asian handicap market, which, Daniele, you're leaning the same way.
I am. I think this is going to be a very, very close and tightly contested match. Look, Belgium are second for attempts on target in these Euros. They've been very, very unlucky. They had a few goals disallowed. You cannot say they haven't created chances. Probably they didn't play with the fluidity we would expect. Against Ukraine, they did enough. To me, they were never looking like they were struggling or they were conceding. And De Bruyne is growing. His performances are better. If he plays closer to the strikers, they are very, very dangerous. Look, they rely a lot on the individual brilliances. There is not a lot of pattern of play. But against Ukraine, it was the only time they failed to score in the last 12 Euro matches. They play France, who, that was a big surprise. They were denied top spot by Poland. However, Skorupski made a couple of great saves in that game. And I think Deschamps and France will be buoyed by the fact that they can create chances. As soon as Mbappé was back on the side, they showed the attacking prowess. But in all the three games, they have shown some vulnerabilities at the back, on the counter, in transition. It's hard to score against France, nonetheless. Before conceding to Lewandowski, they hadn't conceded for 466 minutes, but they got a talisman who's Kante. Now, we adjourned the statistics, 18 games in a major final, 12 wins, 6 draws, never lost within 20 minutes. This is going to be tight, I think. France, again, as I said, for England, high margins of improvement. Let's see if they manage to do it in a short period of time. I'm going to go for a double chance, basically. It's a Belgian handicap 0.5, 198.
Yeah, you get the draw on side there, Daniele, which does look a good price on its own. You can get the draw for around 3.2, which I do like. These two sides have generated a combined total of 10.7 XG in this tournament so far and scored a grand total of 3 goals between them. So the underlying data suggests it's just a matter of time until they start scoring, arguably, or perhaps they've got players up front who can't hit a barn door with a banjo, whichever way you want to read it. As I said, Belgium, Betsy's going for Belgium plus a half at around 1.97. You can get that for 1.98 now on Bet365. Moving on to the other game of the day on Monday, July 1st, Portugal versus Slovenia. Slovenia getting through in bizarre fashion according to those group rankings. Daniele, how do you want to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, because of disciplinary record, because an assistant manager from Denmark was booked. I think they would have been finished third anyway because of the ranking. Yeah, but it's quite bizarre. Slovenia are a rigid team, almost robotic in their 4-4-2. They know exactly what to do, how to keep the distance between midfield, attack, and defense. Only Scotland has had less attempts than Slovenia. They are second from bottom for passes attempted. There is a team in the round of 16 that's done even worse. Possession only 36%. They don't want the ball. Probably they don't really know what to do with the ball. They are a team that can fight. They're pugnacious. I mean, the draw against Denmark shows they can come back into the game, but they know exactly how to play for a 0-0. Only lost 2 of the last 17 games, Slovenia. Not an easy opponent, and especially for Portugal, that so far in this tournament has struggled against the low blocks of Czechia and Georgia. Portuguese players, they very good with the ball, they pass the ball a lot. Sometimes they do struggle to break the line, so they might struggle to break the line here as well. They lost the game they could afford to lose against Turkey, against Georgia. They make some rotation. It was the first defeat in 12 competitive games under Martinez, and only the second time they failed to score in the last 12 Euro games. They should be fired up for this one. I know they are in the difficult part of the draw, but this is definitely a very favorable matchup for them. Hard to beat this Slovenia back line, I think. Under 2.5 goals, 184.
Okay, yeah, it looks good. I mean, Sam, Portugal's stock has fallen a little bit after that defeat to Georgia, but much changed side from Roberto Martinez. Where do you think the way in for this game? Is there anything that's taking your fancy?
No. I probably can't leave it at that, so I'll carry on. The Georgia game wasn't the ideal outcome for Martinez, of course, but at least he's got an idea of what second string players can come in and do a job for him now. João Felix looked bright. I'm not sure about Pedro Neto at fullback, but he also looked good. Ronaldo's not firing. He's had more shots than any player at this tournament. He hasn't found the net yet. In terms of the markets, and I will keep this brief, Portugal 1.40 favourites, minus 1.25 Asian handicap is the line. Portugal winning over 1.5 goals at 1.72 looked okay, but probably a bit short for this podcast. So yeah, keeping it brief. I'm not interested in taking any of the early prices in the main markets that are in front of me. So it's a pass for me, Dan.
Fair enough. Maybe waiting for some player props or something, see if there's any way in there. Betsy's going for Slovenia plus 1.25 for this game. So certainly expecting the Portugal we saw against Georgia rather than the Portugal we saw in the first two matches. Moving on to the final day of round of 16 action on Tuesday, July the 2nd. And Romania, surprise group winners coming up against the Netherlands. Daniele, take it away.
Surprise group winners who probably surprised themselves a little bit and surprised all the critics with that 3-0 win against Ukraine. And I remember you mentioned in one of the podcasts, Sam, the last two games before the tournament, 0-0 against Bulgaria, 0-0 against Liechtenstein. So obviously we didn't have great hopes for them, but that shows that, sometimes tournament football is different. The things with Romania, it is a team that needs to learn from the mistakes because sometimes they can leave themselves exposed. And in that must-draw game against Slovakia, they went close to losing it. I mean, if they wanted to draw the game all the way long, they are great actors, both the Romanians and the Slovakians, because they managed to make us believe they were trying to win the game. But I think it's Romania who struggled to actually control the game and left themselves very, very exposed. It is a historic situation for them. First time they topped the Euro group. First time they qualify since 2000. A lot of national pride. The objective was to go through, and everything that comes after, it is a bonus. As Iordanescu, the manager, has said, this is a group with no stars. And this is a team really where you can't recognize any big player. Maybe Stancho could have been when he was at Anderlecht, then he went to Czech Republic, now he plays in Saudi Arabia. But whereas for Slovenia, Slovakia, at least you can identify Lobotka, Sesko. Here for Romania, probably only Draguzin, who is a young player. It is a team, Romania, that doesn't press very high, second worst for balls recovered, and very direct. They are bottom for passive attempted. So they're going to throw it long, they're going to lump it long to try to catch this Netherlands back line out of shape. And the Netherlands back four, on paper, looks good. In reality, they got a lot of frailties. Van Dijk is not the player they used to be. I think they should play with Van de Ven, who can cover. The fullbacks, Damsel Dumfries, very good going forward. A bit of lapses of concentration when he has to defend. And against Austria, they fell behind after just completing 2 passes. So they only had 2 passes and then conceded, which must be a record. We know they can come back into the game. They did it against Austria partially. They did it against Poland. But, it is a team that has got, for me, a sort of a soft belly, really. I don't know, maybe this is a crazy one with a lot of goals here and not a lot of logic. This is a lean, by the way. Over 2.5 goals, 207. I wouldn't put more than a third of the unit on this one, to be fair.
Goal line is now down to 2.25 on Bet365. So kind of going the other way with it. Betsy, for the record, has gone for Romania plus 1.25. Sam, I did like the Netherlands earlier in the tournament. I thought they started quite well, showed some really good signs in that first match against Poland. But yeah, I agree with Daniele. It does look like it's a team with a soft belly. What have you got a bet for this game? Are you leaning any way with it?
I don't fancy much in this game. Fair play to Romania for topping the group. Absolutely fantastic achievement. It's just a shame that they're pit against a side from one of the toughest groups in Germany. The Netherlands at 1.44 looks short. The plus 1.25 on Romania is semi-appealing, but it's also a touch daunting at the same time. The over 2.25 goal line might be a shout if you think Romania looks to contain but do so unsuccessfully. Overall, for me, Dan, it's a pass. I won't go on and dilute what Daniele said any further. I don't fancy anything in this game.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the last one, Austria versus Turkey. Austria, if they get through here, they could be one of the surprise stories, one of the stories of this Euros. Sam, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so Austria through to the knockouts as group winners. We've said they'd be a tough nut to crack. We said they'd cause each team in their group problems, and they did. That group mentality, a complete knowingness behind how the manager wants them to play, it's apparent. There are 5 players crucial to Austria's improved performances since Ralf Rangnick came in, and they've spent a combined total of 26 years playing for either Red Bull Salzburg or RB Leipzig, the two clubs that mirror Rangnick's non-negotiables of pressing, transitions, high recoveries. You've got Konrad Lehmer, Nicholas Seiwald, Marcel Sabitzer, and Javier Slager have all played for both teams. And you've got Christoph Baumgartner, who has turned out for Leipzig only. That's so helpful. 5 key starters who know the ropes inside and out for the rest of the squad to feed off and buy into. Here in this game, stylistically, Austria and Turkey should put on a show for the neutral. Vincenzo Montella instructs his side to build play from the back, and that's a dangerous game against the Austrians, as we know. The recent friendly between these two saw Austria force double-digit high turnovers through a high targeted press, and Ralf Rangnick's Austria won that 6-1. That 6-1 defeat was one of Turkey's heaviest defeats as a nation in their history. That was in March this year. You have to go back to 1990 to find a Turkey loss and a 5-goal deficit. So that would have stung, and you can be sure they're not thrilled at the prospect of Austria in the round of 16. And I can imagine they were a team, Austria, that many would have wanted to avoid. I didn't want anything to do with them as an England fan personally. I just struggle to see how this over 2.5 goal line isn't threatened. Both Austria and Turkey rank in the top 4 for non-penalty expected goals conceded in this tournament. Austria with 5.55 and Turkey with 4.74. So both a little susceptible at the back, but we know that both will be looking to turn the ball over high and work in that chaos and create goal scoring opportunities from it. I know we're in the knockouts, and I know over 2.5 goals isn't usually the way to play these meetings. However, if I could pit 2 of the nations who have made it through to the knockouts against each other for a high scoring game, it'd be these two. So I have to go for over 2.5 goals at 1.90.
Yeah, this is the only match in the round of 16 where I do like over on the goal line. Sam, just giving it back to you. Turkey will be without Hakan Çalhanoğlu for this game, who's suspended, and defender Samet Akadin. How do you think that's going to affect their chances?
Çalhanoğlu's a massive miss. I think he's brilliant on the ball, picking out passes, also really press resistant. Like, you give him the ball, you're probably going to get out of a sticky situation or two. So that's brilliant for me, for Austria, and for the goal line. And, if Turkey's missing one of their key components at the back too, then, brilliant.
Daniele, throwing it over to you. I know you've gone another way with your bet here, but what do you think of Austria's chances in this match? Progress through here, they'll meet the winner of Romania versus the Netherlands. You can get them to reach the semi-finals of Euro 2024 for around 4.0. What do you think of this Austria team?
It is a perfect Ralf Rangnick team. If you look at the tactics, the 4-2-2-2 that he tried to play Man United, so 2 wide, 2 midfield, 2 holding midfield that can join the play, 2 attackers and to play 2 players in between the line. It is a team that is extremely aggressive. They are top for tackles and balls recovered. They press high. And one of the teams that crosses the most and better, often with cutbacks. They got players like Savitzer, who are very mobile, can break the lines, get involved a lot. It is an Austria that has been playing every single game as if if it was a final, probably because they knew they had to start very strongly in this tournament to have a chance to emerge from a tough group, and they won a group stage for the first time since World Cup 1978. To me, this looks like an Austria better version than the one against whom Italy struggled at Euro 2021. This is a team that has got more legs, that has got a better tactician. Back then, Franco Foda, I think he didn't quite get the tactics right. Everyone thought Austria were going to be difficult to beat, but yeah, they didn't have a lot of attacking prowess. Here, they do. And it's only one defeat in the last 10 for Austria. And they play Turkey. This is going to be probably a spectacular game. Turkey is a team that can't and won't park the bus. They simply cannot do it. They don't have it in the strings. They're in the top 5 for attacks at Euro 2024. Top 3 for corners. They got a lot of talents up front. Hopefully Montella will continue to play with Ildiz and Guler. He didn't play them in the second game against Portugal, and I think that was a mistake. But Turkey, it is a team that is driven by passion, by the pride, by the support of the fans. They are basically almost a second host nation, and they often feel the urge and the pressure of going forward. Yesterday against Czechia, for some spells of the second half, you couldn't tell Czechia had one man less. They had chances because Turkey is not a team able to slow the game down. Only one clean sheet for Turkey in the last 15 Euro games, only won 2 of the last 11. It's the first time they reached the knockout stage since 2008. It is a game where there are going to be chances. I mentioned the fact that they are top 3 for corners, Turkey. Both teams are top 10 for crosses. They're going to be chances. They're going to be ball put into the box. I love the corners market. Over 9.5 corners, 208 not necessarily means they're going to be a lot of goals, but they're going to be scoring opportunities.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. The last match in the round of 16 probably might just be the best one of the lot. Austria vs Turkey, you can get Austria to qualify and over 1.5 goals for about 1.8, which I think might be my way into this match if I were to bet on it. So Betsy likes Turkey plus 0.5 in the Asian handicap market, essentially a Turkey win or draw double chance. You get with the plus 5, you get the draw onside. Daniele, looking a little bit further, we've seen every team play 3 times. Have any of your feelings towards outright markets, towards winners, towards semi-finalists, have your attitudes changed? Have your opinions changed? Anything jumping out to you at the moment?
I just think England have got a great chance to make the final and potentially win it, for what we said before. I think it is a tournament where we'll still see a few surprises. Do not discard the likes of Romania, perhaps the likes of Slovenia. It is a team where, teams from lesser leagues or lesser nations can have players that might be a little bit fresher, but it goes to show that these days and age, there are no secrets. Every single team is prepared. Every single manager know what they're doing. There's a lot of data, a lot of research. Look, imagine 15 years ago, it would have been unthinkable of Slovakia, Romania, Slovenia, Georgia making to a knockout stage of competition. And I think that tells you how overall the quality of European football or world football has increased thanks to data, thanks to scouting. And I think it's a benefit after all. It makes the tournament more unpredictable. It's going to be one of the usual suspects, or maybe unusual since England never won it, but I think it's going to be a final between 2 big nations for sure.
Okay, so Sam, I started the show by advising people to back the draw and to back the draw. Obviously, the draw for the knockout stages plays a big impact in which teams get through. On one side, you've got Spain, Georgia, Germany, Denmark, Portugal, Slovenia, France, Belgium, some big hitters in there. On the other side, on paper, it looks a little weaker with Romania, Netherlands, Austria, Turkey, England, Slovakia, and Switzerland, Italy. Now we've seen every team play 3 times. We know the knockout draw. We know how it's going to go. Is anything jumping out to you in the outright markets for teams to reach the final, teams to reach the semi-final, anything like that?
In terms of the outright markets, I've just got it up in front of me. England at 4.5 still favourites. You'd assume because of how the draws taking place. Then it's Spain and Germany, 5.5 Spain, 6.5 Germany. That's probably where I'd be looking for a winner of the tournament. A little bit further down the list, same price as Italy, is Austria at 16-1. If you fancy something maybe a little bit bigger or a back-to-lay opportunity, that could be a shout. Although obviously the time to have taken that was in the group stages or pre-tournament. That's about it from my kind of thinking, Dan. If I was to put money on someone other than Germany, because we got on them before the tournament, it'll probably be Spain. I think it will likely be one of those two to win the lot. So, that's what I'd go for.
Yeah, looking good. As I said earlier, Austria to reach the semi-finals, you can get for around 4.0, which I think looks really good value considering the draw. As things stand, let's leave it there. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly, only betting what you can afford to lose. Thank you as ever to Sam Ingram.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to our special guest for the third time in a row, Daniele Fisichella. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week to preview the quarterfinals for a special intercontinental episode.